I am Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. He's the author of Sapiens Trilogy, Circa 1740, no other than Mr. T.O Burnett.
Hello, everyone. It's good to be back. It's good to be back. Hi, Daniel.
Yes, welcome back again, Mr. Burnett, and congratulations!
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yes, for the warm welcome of Circa 1740. It is number one on Amazon chart for hot releases. How does it feel?
It feels amazing. When I saw that, I just couldn't believe my eyes. Of course, I took a screenshot of the new release banner that was on there and, just cropped it. I'll be saving it. I'll probably make a picture of that, 8 by 10 or something like that, or 8 by 11, and keep it on my desk, just a reminder of what's possible. And, so it's a good start for a great book. I'm happy about it.
Yesterday, I saw it number one. That,
Yes,
that's how the book, I think, one of the bestseller coming. Wow.
that would be amazing. I would be not upset about that. It's been doing well. People have been supporting me. The support has been tremendous. The feedback has been awesome, although the reviews are slow and coming on Amazon right now. I know for a fact that there's at least one review that's tried to add that hasn't uploaded yet, and it's a verified review at that. But hopefully those are be coming and people will get a chance to read those and read the blurb and get their hands on Circa 1740.
Yes, circa 1740. What behind the title?
Circa 1740. It's anytime someone says circa, it we know that relates to of or about of time, and 1740 relates to the time that he travels to but does not remain in. And just a clue. But the story is actually set in the year 2211. Where the main story takes place. Um, my main character, DeQuandre Tyson, time travels to the year 1740. So thus the title Circa 1740.
So why did you choose 1740 or 18th century?
Well, that's a good question because I wanted to put my the story is about uh an individual who is not as I guess, but who doesn't do his part in his community, and he's indifferent to the plight of African Americans in America. So part of that, he needed to see the pathology that's of slavery and the ramifications that it had or will have, even in the year 2211 when he lives. And so, in order to kind of prove a point to himself, he thought it was going to go one way. It didn't for him, unfortunately and fortunately. But he wanted to go to ground zero of the trauma for black people in America, and that was slavery, and that was Jamestown, Virginia, is where he traveled to. Is where the first slave kind of settlement occurred, where it was established, and so he wanted to go and see it in its rawness, and I wanted to make it. I chose 1740 because I wanted to set it, you know, smack dab in the middle of slavery when slavery was firmly established, but I didn't want it to be right up to the Revolutionary War, so I put it 1740 as opposed to the time that that actually occurred.
And according to Miss Heather Henderson, one of your reviews says favorite prologue.
Yeah, the prologue, and so one of the things that Amazon has taught me is that with the look inside feature, people, it's very important to start your novels off in a way that's going to capture your reader right away. So in this instance, the prologue allowed me to start right away with the action in media res, have it where we fall in to a situation where a great deal of action has already occurred. We're dealing with the aftermath, and somebody is dying right there on the page as we in the first sentence, and then we're dealing with the trauma of the individual, the point of view characters interiority at that point in time, and all that he's dealing with while he's still trying to save his own life. And so that made for an exciting prologue that I'm not going to give away the surprise at the end of the prologue, but it's right there on the looking side. If you look at it, you'll see, and it hooks you right away. You know, it's exciting, it's post pounding, and you're right away. It makes you invested in that character and hope that the character survives. So it was a good start. I took my time with it, and I made sure that I laid it out in a way that if I were the reader, I would be, unable to put the book down.
And according to Miss Henderson, you crafted the book in a such a way that anyone will read will be addicted to it.
That was the goal. That was the goal. Even in the points where there was not much action happening on the pages, I wanted to make sure that there was intrigue and suspense label put into it. I wanted to make sure that everything that I wrote in this story was either foreshadowing or either pertinent to the story or to the main story. There's nothing wasted in here. I even had to go back and layer in to the story some red herrings for that reason.
Yes. And emotions of the characters are sometimes so palpable.
Yes. So in that situation, once again, I'm a very strong believer in plausibility and verisimilitude when it comes to my writing. In that vein, we go to the parameters of the that I've established for the context of the personalities of the particular character, put them in a situation. And my goal at that point in time is to respond in the exact same way, a plausible way that character would do, given the fact that also given the fact that the character does have choices in that moment, and you hope in that situation that the character makes the right choice, but ultimately up to the character, and so it keeps you tuned in, it keeps you reading, and I think that is the key.
Yes. So, circa 1740, what historical events that influence you the most?
Well, mainly it's the fact that slavery did happen in the United States, that Black Americans are still dealing with the trauma, and that certain individuals did benefit from slavery and still are reaping the benefits from it, though they may not believe so, and that we as a country are still dealing with the ramifications or the consequences of forced servitude by Black people in this country, and it's still, in a lot of ways, it's divisive. It's still, has a wedge, and there's a stigma sometimes associated with Black skin still to this day, and that comes with a great deal of skepticism, whereas other cultures that are, that or immigrants that come here, automatically get the benefit of the doubt in certain situations that we do not. So it's still, alive and well, but it's a slow moving train, and our goal as people, Black, white, everyone, is to stay on the tracks.
Yes. So, circa 1740 is filled with care and love. How did you do that in the story?
There's a lot of sensitive issues that go through here, so I address a lot of the things uh, that went on in slavery, a lot of the bad things that went on in slavery. Um, but I didn't want to present them in a way that was going to be a turnoff to the readers. Um, so, listen, I want Black readers, I want white readers, I want readers of all cultural backgrounds to enjoy this book. So, this book is not one about slavery that wags its finger at white people and say, look how bad you are. It doesn't do that. This is an introspective on Black people. It's family business, and it's one Black character's responsibility to his community at large is what its focuses on. So, in that vein, I take a lot of sensitive things and that have to be put into the story. They have to be put into the story. You just can't gloss over them. But I try to do them in a way that is palatable.
Yes. So, circa 1740 had 30 chapters. Which chapters have difficulties in writing with?
Uh, so of the 30 chapters, chapter 10 was probably the most difficult to write. Um, in that chapter, I think it's called The Awakening, and that's the chapter where he actually arrives in slavery for the first time, and it's a shock to his system. It will be a shock to anyone's system. My main character is a a former high profile athlete who has everything. He lives in a state of the art home, have has all the plush amenities, all the creature comforts that one could imagine, and then he goes to a time period where the first thing he notices when he arrives there is that his shoes are two sizes too small, and his feet hurt, and he's in a sweltering, musty um, structure, and there's no air conditioning, and so right away feel it, you feel it, you hear it, you see it, and everything is there's I wanted to make that clear delineation and make it evident right there at that moment. And so he experiences some bad things right away. There's nothing good because I'll say I'll his arrival was at a time that was not opportune for him or the people who were around him. And so it was the wrong time for him to be ignorant to some things. So it has consequences and ramifications. And when you read it, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes, people. And Miss Henderson said that filled with twists.
Yes, absolutely. A staple of my writing style in any book that I write is that you won't be able to predict anything that um, that goes on. A lot of the stuff, plot wise, or just is counterintuitive. I want to say counterintuitive, but I because I do lay the foundation, I do foreshadow certain things, but I don't want anything to be predictable. So although I do recognize that the value of tropes and things of that nature, I don't want any of my work to be cliche. So I work hard to avoid that.
Circa 1740 is totally planned to us. The same with Sapien trilogy.
It's totally planned. I plotted it out from beginning to end before I wrote a word. I had a complete outline. I and I made sure to stick to that, which made for a quick write. I wrote this book in under 6 months. As a result, it was plotted from beginning to end. I had the genre conventions laid out, had the key scenes laid out. I knew exactly what needed to be in there. I made sure all of those things were met. Circa 1740 is a worldview novel. That's the content genre of it. It falls under this the the commercial genre of science fiction, but the content genre, which is more specific, is a worldview novel, and all of those things are met. It's all about the character um, having a mindset that may or may not be problematic, being made aware of it, confronting that, experiencing something as a result, and the what we want to see as readers is whether it changes him for the better or for the worse. But we do know for a fact that he's going to be changed.
Yes. So, how many days and months you wrote circa 1740?
I think I was through the first draft in approximately 4.5 months, maybe 5 months, and then I started the editing process immediately afterward. It didn't take very long. I set a writing goal of 600 words per day, and I, with the exception of one day, I think I met that goal every day. But even still, on the day that I didn't meet the goal, I came back and wrote 1,800 words the next day. So 600 words is a very low bar to meet. But if you meet that every day, you can write 108,000 words in 6 months. I believe that's the numbers. So it's a it you can get and that's a full novel.
Is there a sequel or prequel for this book?
There is not. Circa 1740 is a standalone. So you can expect to get a beginning, a climax, resolution, and and everything is going to be wrapped up in a nice little bow. It's a you know it meets the genre conventions. You know, if you study the worldview genre, and I won't give you any, the readers any clue, the listeners any clues. But if you study the worldview genre, it meets everything, all the expectations that are within that. And I say that because I don't want to give a clue to the ending, because there's a certain expectation of worldview genre endings that this does fall right into the parameters of.
Okay. Before we go on, Mr. Burnett, I want to shout out to the people listening in Italy. Grazie mille tutto. People listening in Piedmont. I have 41% audience share. Latium, 32%. Lombardy at 9%. Tuscany, of course. Emilia Romagna, 3%. Aquila, I have 3%. Campania, 3% again. Torrentino Alto Adige. Wow, grazie mille tutto. Of course, Veneto, Sicily, Calabria, Friuli, Venezia, Giulia. And thank you so much for supporting this podcast, because this podcast is created to empower writers all over the world like Mr. Burnett. So, Mr. Burnett, Miss Aretha Thomas says, it will move you. Wow.
Yes, it there are some emotional scenes in this book. There are some, listen, there are a couple of scenes that even though I wrote the book myself, that I cry every time I read it. And I've read this book 9 times myself already. So every time I've gotten to to a couple of particular spots in the book, it's just, even though I know what's about to happen, it still draws the tears out of me, and it's just so gut wrenching. And you feel for the character, the main character. You feel for the people in the novel, and just for their condition. And we have the benefit of hindsight. We know that slavery ends in 1865. In 1745 and 1740, they don't know that. And so everything that they're working toward, and my main character knows that, but he knows it. And so he has to weigh everything that he's going through with the fact that the people who he's living with won't see freedom, and it's a painful thing.
Yes. And I like this, Mr. Burnett. Miss Thomas said, it will
Yeah.
change you for the better.
Yes, that's a whale of a compliment right there. And I tend to agree with her. It makes you search within and look within, and ask some tough questions of everyone who is reading the book. What would you do in that situation? How would you react? Um, what would be your response to living in that condition and being thrusted into a situation that's so bad, so genocidal, and so just replete of respect and all of the humanity that we so rightly deserve.
Miss Henderson and Miss Thomas have a great objectives of your book, and they are well written, excellent read, amazing novel. I can more than agree with that.
Well, thank you very much. And the one that stands out to me right there is the well written part. I'm a person who has an active and a great imagination, but the technical aspects of writing I've had to work on. And that's where the Sapien trilogy came into play, because it allowed me to get my writing chops together. But um, the fact that they're saying well written is a great compliment. I take that to heart, and I'm still improving, and I endeavor to improve even more. But that really makes me feel good. I like that.
So Sapien is your like stepping stone to be better writer.
Yes, absolutely. And hopefully, each book that I write will have that effect on the next book. I hope to, by the time it's all said and done, if I get to write the amount of books that I hope to write, I hope that once, like I said in the last episode of this podcast, that I will be a writer of some renown. Um, and I think that if I keep improving at the rate that I have improved already, that will be possible. It's just I'm a student of the game. I listen to podcasts daily. I listen to your podcast. I listen to several others. I have about 12 in rotation that I actively listen to, and they're all about writing. And so I'm a nerd when it comes to this thing. I want to soak up as much information as possible, and I wanted to incorporate everything that is helpful to me into my process, and and continue to improve.
Yes, I think that's the good trait. Even you think that yourself is good already, you need to improve more.
Oh, that's absolutely correct. That's absolutely correct. Listen, when Michael Jordan was playing basketball to the day he retired, he still practiced free throws every day. So, there's always room for improvement.
True. So, people listening on my Book 101 review, I'm inviting you to listen to my other podcast, Food 101, on our third season with Chef Alessandro, one of the executive chef in five-star hotel in downtown Toronto. Food 101 is all about different kind of cuisine, interviews, and food trivia, and many more. So please do check Food 101. So, Mr. Burnett, circa 1740, what is the best highlight?
Oh, wow. So the best highlight of Circa 1740 is well, the prologue first and foremost. I've gotten amazing feedback from everybody. So everyone who's listening to it, you can go to the Amazon link right now, click on the look inside feature, and just read the prologue. Everybody's loved that. But for me, um, in chapter 8, when he goes through the paranormal or the cosmic event that allows him to time travel, the description that I use within that to show him going through the portal and how he came back out of the portal and all those things. That's my favorite part. I think it's so vivid as you're reading it. You can see it occurring, you can feel it, and it's just it's. I think it's just from my perspective. I think that part is very well done, and it shows. And it's funny because the um the prologue and that scene that I'm talking about now in chapter 8 were the first two scenes of the book that I actually wrote, and I filled everything else in between. So that'll tell you, and it shows obviously because everybody is excited about the prologue, and I love the scene in chapter 8 where he actually goes through the portal.
So if there's a prologue, there's be an epilogue. If you compare your epilogue from your prologue, what's the big difference?
Well, there is no epilogue in the story. The last scene in the book could serve as an epilogue. It feels like an epilogue, but I chose not to make it an epilogue, um, just because I wanted it to have a clean end to the story, and so it's just a decision. It felt better within the story, but the prologue is but to compare and contrast the two, they are. Uh, whereas the as exciting as the prologue is, the epilogue or the final scene in the book is as warm, as touching, and there's another one where you may shed a tear once you read it.
Yes, that's true. So if after 5 years or after 2 years, you want to modify circa 1740, which part of the book you want to modify?
Ah, at this point, at this juncture, there's no inclinations to do that. But if I if anything, there's a portion after the climax that had I wanted to, I probably could have added a little more stuff to you know just a little more enrichment. But I think that just would have prolonged the inevitable, and it would have had no bearing on the outcome of the story. So the way I wrote the final scene and the final chapter, um, it kind of incorporates implicitly all of those things that I would have included anyway.
Very well said. Circa 1740, good for a series or for a movie?
Oh, Circa 1740 would be either a movie or a miniseries. I can see it being done into a 4 or 5 part miniseries, but I think the best medium for this would be a standalone movie, and I think it would I think it would be epic. It would be great. It would
Yes,
be something that would be amazing.
it will be phenomenal.
Yes, yes, even better. I like phenomenal. Yes,
Yeah. It's phenomenal, Mr. Burnett. Circa 1740.
yes.
So, uh, most of the movie adaptation from they change the title from the movie. Do you agree to change the title of the book from the movie that they do or the series?
This is one where I'm almost sure that they would change it. I happen to love the title, but I think that were it to be adapted to a movie that they would change the title, and I would be fine with that. Once again, as long as I was giving credit for having written the source material and and all of the monetary stuff that goes along with that, then I would have no problem with it. But I think yeah, I think that probably will happen. I just love the title myself, but I can see where somebody would change it, and I can see where they would take some creative liberties with some of the scenes in the novel as well. And as far as stretching out some of the things that go on while he's in slavery, I think the portion of time he spends in his own time is pretty much untouchable because it's laid out in such a fashion that nothing could be sacrificed there. But I can see them taking some liberties on the other side.
I think last Wednesday we talked about our third season for with my co-host Krista Trublay that some writers they are discredited. It some other author like Mr. Herbert. Mr. Herbert is well known for horror genre novels, and we compare Mr. Herbert to Mr. King, and Mr. King is like a big hit because if a movie outfit taking his work the same title of the book. May I know your opinion? Are you okay for that they discredit their writers?
No, I'm not. But no, I'm not okay with that. I think that's a shame. Actually, I think writers, as much as possible, should get get credit whenever credit is due. Anybody who creates anything should be able to be acknowledged for the work that they've done. That's where the music industry gets it right. If you sample somebody's work or you do something that's too similar or too close to somebody's work, as we saw with the Blurred Lines and the Marvin Gaye situation with that, the songs sound a lot similar, and he was successfully sued, I believe, for that. So I think in the same vein, in the same way that if you create something and if something is based on what you created or taken directly from you, then by all means the writer should get credit for it.
Yes, definitely. Because that is, I think, a big achievement for a writers or an author.
That's correct.
So let's talk about the main character of Circa 740. What are the characteristics that you can share to us?
Okay, so DeQuandre Tyson is he's first of all he's a very very good basketball player. He um is 25 years of age. He's 6 feet 6 inches tall, so he's prototypical size for NBA basketball player and shooting guard. Um, he's coming off a successful college basketball career, one in which he became a national hero when he hit a buzzer beater jump shot to win the national championship game for the Southside State Cerulean Knights, the university that he played for. Everybody in the country knew him from that point on. He was given the nickname the Stud by the color commentator Dick Rogers at that moment, and everybody from that point on knew him as a stud. He happened to be a sophomore in college when he hit the shot. Once he graduated from college, he went to work for a marketing firm where he pretty much was the face of the firm. And so well, before that, he was trying to go to the pro league and ended up having a major knee injury. that stopped him from going professional. But his parents were smart enough to put a insurance policy on him, and so he got paid a handsome amount and made him pretty much a millionaire. So he didn't need to work, but he worked anyway because he wanted to stay active. And so he lived a good lifestyle. And so that's where we find him when the story begins. His problem with the worldview, which makes it a worldview story, is that he's indifferent to the plight of others. He cares only about himself. He's a pretty selfish individual in the beginning, and so that is pointed out to him by a co-worker of his, and so that's where the conflict arises.
Yes. So, how about the villain? How you crafted the villain in the story?
The villain is in a worldview story. The villain is the protagonist is the person he's trying to be, and the antagonist is the person that he needs to get away from, and they're both contained within himself. And so that that is the challenge for him. So he has to fight an internal struggle, and that is what's going on. And so the the interesting thing for the reader is to see whether he is able to overcome that, and if he does, what he does with his new found awakening at that point.
Yes. So, if you're making stories, is it the villain and the main character are they have the same characteristics?
My mentality about that is that the villain needs to be someone who is formidable. It makes for a better story is if the villain is more powerful than the main character, because the main it gives the main character something to overcome. It gives them a major obstacle, and it makes the reader have to root for them. So the villain needs to be a very capable individual. The villain needs to have a MacGuffin that is believable, and the individual needs to be someone who has something that they believe strongly in, and it has to be to make sense to the reader. We just can't have them be evil for the sake of being evil. That doesn't work anymore. We can't have, you know, I mean, the Joker's been done. So that character is out there. Is one of a kind. But we need individuals who have a purpose, and they need to fight for something. And just philosophically, they need to have a blind spot to how bad what they're trying to achieve actually is. The main character sees it, the reader sees it, everybody else in the world sees it, but the person with the power, the villain, does not see it. And that's what needs to be overcome.
Very well said, Mr. Burnett. So,
Thank you.
30 chapters. Which
Yes.
chapters inspired you the most?
So I definitely liked writing chapter 4 of this book, and that is titled "A Tie, a Guy, in a Crucifix." And in that chapter, something very cool happens. I'm not going to spoil it for the reader, but that's when the main character gets his eyes open, and that's where the kind of sort of the inciting incident is about to happen. Um, so chapter 4, chapter 10, I love. Um, Chapter 18 is incredible, and chapter 18 is the chapter that when he has lived his life in slavery, and he understands fully everything about it, and so now he has that knowledge, and so he has to go through the rest of his natural life, um, dealing with what he learned in there. And so, and then also chapter 30, the last chapter, is one that I really love.
Historical events, let's go back. After 5 years or 10 years that you want to modify this circa 1740, which historical events you want to insert?
um so I the historical events are already included. I did reference the war because it does cross over to the Revolutionary War at some point in time, so you just can't have that occur and then not reference it at all. So I do mention that, you know, but the enslaved people on the plantation that I write about are not involved in that, but it does have some it does touch them. So some things that happen in that war do affect them, whether it's adversely or positively. I'll leave that for the reader to discover. and so it's set there. Now 2211 is the other year that the story is set in. So I'm not that clairvoyant where I can figure out what's going what's going to happen, in the 23rd century. So, but if I would, I'd be playing lottery numbers every day. But so I don't know what historical events would have transpired at that point in time. But the one sure thing that we do know happened, I did address it in the story.
Mr. Burnett, so where do people buy your book?
Amazon. Once again, go to Amazon. And especially with this book, I want to reiterate you want to go to Amazon and just click on the look inside feature and read everything that is there. I promise you, once you read that, you'll be hooked. You'll want to read the entire story. There's no way that you can read that and not want to see what's coming next. So go to Amazon, either search my name, T.O. Burnett, or search Circa 1740, and you'll find it. And just please enjoy my story, read it, review it, tell me what you think. And I'm just excited to hear from you all about it.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Burnett because all the books are phenomenal. Sapien Trilogy, if you
Thank you.
want to listen to our conversation, we talk about Sapien, Dawn of Oblivion, Sapien.
Days of Deception and
Yes,
Sapien, Then There Was Darkness.
if you want to know those books, listen to us because we discuss the secrets and how Mr. Burnett crafted all those books and one of the kind.
Yes.
Congratulations again, Mr. Burnett, for number one hot releases of Circa 1740. I hope this will be a bestseller and to be a movie or to be a series.
Thank you very much. I hope that your wishes come true. That would be great for me. That would be a dream for me. So let's keep our fingers crossed.
Yes, shouting HBO or Netflix.
Yes, either or. I'll
Yes.
be happy to have either one of them take it on for sure.
Or Disney Plus.
That
No,
would work too. Yes.
they are a good provider for those series or movies. So, Mr. Burnett, what else you can say about Circa 1740?
Circa 1740 is a look into from a perspective of black people. Circa 1740 is me talking about family business. That's what it's talking about. So, it goes beyond the stereotypical things that other people from the outside looking into us would would see, and it gets into the nuanced behaviors that we recognize for ourselves, and goes into the different levels of what we think about one another. So, if you want some insight, in one of my favorite books of all time is George Orwell's 1984, and I like that book because it says the quiet part out loud. It says some true things, and in that way, Circa 1740 is the same because it addresses some things that Black people that we all know about one another that we don't necessarily think that the rest of the world sees, but we see it in ourselves. Just like any other place, any like some things that all Italian people might know about each other, or some things that all Chinese people might know about each other, or Indonesian people might know about each other that might be hard to imagine or understand by people who are on the outside looking in. So this is how I approach, you know, our black community in America specifically, and I think it'll be insightful. I think that if you want to learn something about us, take a look and listen. I mean, and read it, and you'll have your eyes open to a few things.
So, is it Mr. George Orwell influence you in your writing?
Yes, he does influence me in that there he emphasizes the honesty that needs to take place in fiction. And I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but it's true. There's fiction needs to have a great deal of truth in it for it to be plausible, believable, and for it to be relatable. And so, um, for that reason, I do mimic that aspect of his writing. George Orwell, Octavia Butler. Octavia Butler for her imagination and for the way that she thinks outside of the box, and also James Baldwin for his ability to extrapolate a point to a conclusion that is understandable and conveys everything that he needs to convey. So those three writers are, I think, I'm an amalgamation. I want to be an amalgamation of the three, and if I achieve that, then it would be something special. But that's what I endeavor to do.
If you describe Mr. George Orwell writing, what is it? Or what are they?
I say truth. Timeless. With 1984 and Animal Farm, he addresses some social issues in a ways in ways that are palatable, you know, and make and breaks it down in a way that you can easily understand it. In 1984, even though when he wrote 1984, his vision of what 1984 would actually look like is off. It's completely off. But the universal truths that he conveys in that story are undeniable, and that's the allure of that work of that novel, and that's why even today is still in the genre well respected and a bestseller.
Yes. So now we are in the 21st century. Who are your writers that influence you the most?
Um, well, still to this day, I read books by Octavia Butler, even though she's deceased. Octavia Butler, James Baldwin, and George Orwell, those three. So I read their works, and because of the things that I mentioned already, there's not a my opinion, and this is probably a little bit controversial, but my opinion of today's writers are not it's not very high because there are some who are very successful and who do some great things, but what I found is that people are writers of today are better marketers than they are writers. You have a lot of people who write, make a lot of money, but don't write stories that are going to resonate past um, that book, past that time frame that they wrote it. My goal is to be a throwback. I want to write books that people will see, read 200 years from now, and think that they're still relatable, that they still are have value. And so I may not make as much money as the people who are writing to market right now, but I'll take that trade off. Immortality is a beautiful thing.
Definitely. So, what do you think? What are the factors why nowadays being a writer is the quality is being lessened and lessened?
Just for the reasons I stated, because it doesn't there's not bec- because the avenues to publishing have opened up. People are there's people are You have the ability to become a factory. People want to put out more and more product instead of taking 2 or 3 years or whatever the time frame that's needed to write the book that they need to write to perfect it or whatever. It's all about getting books out quickly, um, marketing them, and then going on to the next one. So I think in some ways that mindset has caused. I know people who have written 18, 20 books in and haven't been writing for 5 years, and they are making tons and tons of money. And so, but I don't. When it's all said and done, you know, I want somebody to pick up my book and be impressed from the first word to the last word, and whether I make any money on it or not, I want them to say that this is well done, and so that's the standard to which I write.
So, do you mean that nowadays we are producing quantity, not quality?
I think yes, you said it better than I did, but yes, I think that's what's happening.
What is your advice so that we maintain the quality of writing that we had before, like the time of Shakespeare, Dickens?
My biggest would be to take your time, write something that you'll be proud of, and I know that since people have pseudonyms and pen names, nowadays that they write under is not as much importance put on it, but ultimately those things can always be attributed back to you, and you know what you're writing. Even if I wrote under a pen name, and if somebody was sitting there beside me and just trashing the novel that I had written, I would feel horrible about that. So I would want to be able to be proud of whatever I've written. I want it, like I said, I want it to be timeless, and I want people to look back on it. I want my family members to be proud of what I've written, and I want it to be just respected work. So that's the standard I adhere to. So that would be my advice. Write something that you will always be proud of. Take your time. Don't rush your work. Put it out when you're ready to put it out.
Yes, people, listen to Mr. Burnett because Mr. Burnett producing quality books. So once again, Mr. Burnett, invite our readers and listeners to buy your book.
Yes, go to Amazon.com or Amazon dot wherever you are in the world, and log on. Put Circa 1740 in the search bar, or put T.O. Burnett in there, and all of my books will come up. See and purchase them. Oh, and by the way, I want to thank you because I have seen an uptick in sales since we've recorded the other three episodes around the Sapien series. So there, I've been monitoring my Amazon, my KDP account, and things are moving as a result of what you, Daniel Lucas, have done, and I appreciate you for that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Mr. Burnett, and I hope we finish all your books. You can come again and talk about your books that you read, and you can promote your book. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Burnett.
Thank you very much for having me, Daniel. This has been an absolute joy. It's been a blast, and I can't thank you enough for what you've done, giving me a platform to talk about my books. This has been amazing. I think you put on one heck of a podcast, and I hope your readers or your listeners are enjoying what they've been hearing. It's been very enjoyable for me. Thank you.
More to come, people. See you soon.